Rising U.S. tariffs and growing nationalism threaten Singapore's economy. But Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says there are still opportunities in clean energy and advanced technology. He says the government will keep making bold moves to embrace artificial intelligence, support businesses, and stay a key hub for global investment. Nadirah Zaidi reports.
At a conference by Institute of Policy Studies, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong says the US baseline tariff of 10% is not ideal, but Singapore can live with it because of America's resilient economy and tremendous innovation among its companies. But at the same time, if the US continues pulling back from the international order, it might pose further challenges.
It's not just America alone, it's America's network of allies and partners. There's no one that can replace, there's no one that is able to, no one that is willing to. And so if this trend continues, we will end up with more chaos in the world. It will be a world that is more conflict-prone, more difficult to navigate, more fragmented, and less able to come together to deal with global challenges.
To cope with these challenges, Singapore's Economic Resilience Task Force, led by Trade and Industry Minister Gan Kim Yong, will continue to negotiate and strengthen foreign ties.
Beyond dealing with the immediate, there is also a need for the task force and for us as a government and as a society to think about how we better prepare Singapore for a very different environment. And so we will need to update and refresh our economic strategies for a changed world. The task force is thinking about how best to do this, and they will be making some announcements in due course.
To be a global city, Mr. Wong says Singapore has no other choice but to remain open. But at the same time, it must remain consistent with its initial values and be a shining note for investors and businesses. This means staying stable, predictable and reliable while taking care of its citizens' needs.
There will be house rules that apply. For example, guardrails on housing. Foreigners want to buy a home, property here, well, pay the ABSD. There will be prudent controls on foreign manpower. It's not just a free-for-all. We manage the flows so that Singaporeans always remain at the center of everything we do.
Mr. Wong says clean energy will be critical to Singapore's next phase of growth, and the country is seriously studying the use of nuclear power. On technology, he says it's not just about being pioneers. The real gains come when adoption is broad and widespread.
There's still so much potential to be unlocked and unleashed. And so we will have to think harder about how we can help every company, big and small, especially our smaller enterprises, make full use of AI, integrate AI into your processes, transform your industry, transform your business, elevate productivity in a more significant way.
Moving forward, Mr. Wong has pledged that the government will continue making bold moves to keep Singapore exceptional.
Deputy Prime Minister Gan Kim Yong says the United States is in no mood to discuss any cuts to the 10% baseline tariffs on Singapore, but he adds that Singapore is still open to negotiations. His comments come after a week-long trip to the US for trade talks, where tariff discussions were a key focus. Caitlin Ng with more.
Singapore's pitch for tariff relief landed in Washington last week. But Deputy Prime Minister Gan Kim Yong says the US was not keen to discuss reducing Singapore's tariffs. He revealed this during a conference organised by the Institute of Policy Studies.
We also wanted to know whether the baseline tariff will stay at 10% or will it be higher or lower. And the answer was non-committal, and they are still reviewing the tariff, and in time to come they will make the appropriate announcement. So we just have to wait and see. I think there's significant uncertainties.
Singapore is facing a 10% baseline tariff when exporting goods to the US. DPM Gan says changes to that rate remain unclear. He added that during the US visit, he did not meet with US Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. This meant that talks on pharmaceutical tariffs did not take place.
I think the administration's focus now is to finish the negotiation on reciprocal tariffs. So after that, then they will start to engage countries on specific sectoral tariffs like pharmaceuticals or semiconductors.
Beyond tariffs, DPM Gan met with US congressmen and administration officials to highlight Singapore's economic role and ASEAN as a fast-growing region.
We also discussed the cooperation in digital economy, in climate change, in sustainability, in the green economy, and how we can continue to work together in many of these areas that have potential for growth. And also encourage them to continue to engage Asia, not just Singapore, but the larger Asia, because ASEAN, for example, is a fast-growing region and a very important economic region for the US.
But even after tariffs are discussed, Mr. Gan says other significant trade uncertainties remain. These include how tariffs will apply when goods are shipped between countries. There's also the issue of determining where a product originates from and how these products are classified when they're built with parts from many different countries. How other nations may respond to US trade policies is also unclear.
There's also an issue of how the supply chain will be restructured. If countries who have investments in high tariff countries may decide to move their investments to relocate their manufacturing plant to a lower tariff country so as to benefit from the lower tariffs imposed by the US. The concern and the uncertainty that we are facing really is how would this impact the overall global trading system. What we call the rules-based multilateral trading system, that we depend on rules, respecting trade agreements with one another and not to change at will. It's something that has been challenged.
Despite these hurdles, DPM Gan says the US economy remains resilient, with its inflation moderating and steady employment. He adds that the US business sentiment is also cautiously optimistic.